Good morning, everybody. It is Friday. It's finally the end of the week. Thank God. And you have reached Generator Live. I am your host, Matt Stagliano, and it's good to see you here. If the titles are screwed up on Instagram or whatnot, who cares? For those of you that are watching on Instagram right now, just know that there's going to be a little bit of about a 10-second delay. And if things are a little bit chunky, it's because I'm testing out a beta. So I'm going to shut a couple of things down, see if I can free up some memory here. How are you doing? If you are with me and you feel like hanging out and you feel like chatting, just go ahead and jump in the chat and let me know what you're thinking about today, what you're getting ready for the weekend. I'm going to close a couple of programs down because I didn't do this beforehand. As always, I'm running a little bit late. So stand by. All right, I think we're good. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what we were talking about on Wednesday night. Now, Wednesday night was a great show. Oh, you know what? Before I even get into all of this, let's start saying hello to some people in the comments. Good morning, Carolyn. Thank you for joining me. Happy Friday to you as well. I'm glad you're here. I hope you're gearing up for a good day. I am drinking coffee. I'm drinking tea. I hope you're drinking coffee or some level of caffeine. Get yourself in gear. But as people join in, let's get started with kind of a topic that I was covering on Wednesday night. So there was a lot that we had to do. Good morning, Bassam. How are you, my friend? Good to see you. You know what? I'm going to change you a little bit here on Instagram. See if I can get you down here. And we'll put that right about there. So when comments come up, people can see it. Cool. I was talking about some of the things that I have going on. Just to recap, I did a complete overhaul of my website on Stone Tree Creative. So if you get a chance, this isn't necessarily a plug for Stone Tree Creative, but I'd love for you to go through the site and find the bugs, find the stuff that I screwed up, because I'm sure I did, whether it's on mobile, whether it's on tablet, whether it's on desktop. I was coding as fast as I could code, and I don't know if it came out all right. I'm sure there's spacing off. I'm not a graphic designer. I'm not a web developer. So, check it out. Let me know if there's anything wrong with it. I've got a couple of new sessions that I want to be putting up soon, but this right here is the done but not perfect, and that's perfectly fine. All right, we got a couple other people showing up. This is fantastic. Oh, look at this. Bassam is in here, and I see Carol in here too. Good morning, Kelly. This is like, what was it? Was it Romper Room or Zoom? And I see Kelly, and I see Josh. Good morning, good sir. How are you, my friend? I got to talk to you later today, so I'll give you a call. So the website stuff is all well and good. That's fine. I'm trying to work the kinks out, right? Because I'm crowdsourcing all my development. I'm crowdsourcing all my, my bug fixes and whatnot. So you guys are my beta testers. Go out there and break it. Let me know. And if you have screenshots, let me know. Because as I test the Ecamm software, you're testing my website, you're telling me how the stream is, all that stuff. So that was the website update, which led me into thinking about, I don't know if you guys have heard about this, right? I'm an AI nerd. You guys have heard about OpenClaw and all of this. I don't know if you have or you haven't. You might actually have lives and you don't, kind of watch the AI landscape like I do. But if you don't know what OpenClaw is, it's really more in the software development circles, but it's quickly going to become mainstream. You guys are going to hear about it everywhere because the nerds will take over and will use it in photography somehow. So here's basically what OpenClaw is. So all these AI models that are out there, all the chat bots, all the large language models that we use, that's really just one little interface. It's very much, we talk to this large language model, it predicts our language patterns, and then it spits out the most probable answer. And it also makes you feel good, right? They program in some level of personality. and they, make it sycophantic. It wants to say everything that you do is perfect. Well, what OpenClaw does, it was Claude bot, and then it was Moltbot, and all the cease and desist with Claude AI, but they renamed it OpenClaw. And the developer basically turned a weekend project into something that has taken the AI world by storm, like lightning fast. Put together agentic AI, so creating autonomous agents in AI to do things like book a restaurant reservation, call Uber Eats, figure out how to make your email and Slack messages more organized, right? All these different things that we do in our daily life, they take up a little bit of time, but it's not pressing because we've never had any of these tools to be able to help us do things autonomously. It's always a lot of input. Well, OpenClaw, that created all of these agents that could then talk to each other to break apart complex tasks and then be able to solve them for you. So you throw it a task, hey, write me the code for a new website, make sure that it does X, Y, and Z, and make sure that it interfaces with my Gmail and my Flowdesk account and yada, 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 right? You build out this big architecture. It's kind of like Vibe AI coding, right? So you code out all this infrastructure and then you walk away and you come back and it's done. And now you can do that with things like Claude Code or Codex, but what was really cool about OpenClaw is that anybody can run this. Now, of course, software developers start flying into GitHub to get the code and they start building this thing out. And I'll make an extraordinarily long story short. It's very insecure to run by yourself if you're not a security expert and software developer. It takes up a lot of space. And if you're using things like Claude or ChatGPT as your language model to do your AI work, your intelligence work, the ability to rack up tokens and cost are insane. So unless you're doing this full time, stay away for now. And believe me, I was trying to set things up on my Mac and get it all going. And then I realized, this is just a little bit too early even for me. So I backed off of it. Now, I say all of that to say this. These types of things are coming where now on a Mac Mini, on my desktop, I can be running essentially a full customized AI agent of my own that can do a lot of different things. So as a photographer and a business owner, I am not a large company that can afford tons of software developers or coders or marketers or, outsourcing everything. I'm just not there. So I use AI to leverage its capabilities to help me get through some of those more complex tasks more easily. And we've talked about this all the time, right? But what I really would love to see is the ability to get something like OpenClaw running locally here on my machine that's safe, secure, isn't going to cost me a ton, and be able to help me do the things in my photography business that take up a lot of time. The marketing, the social posts, right? I want to be able to feed an agent a folder of my photos and have it create carousels and make posts and write the captions and do things that are not altering my work, but just help me do the small tasks, the heavy lifting. Get that all done because I just don't have the time and energy to do it. So eventually we're going to see this change the landscape of how small businesses run. Right now, you're looking at software developers and tech bros and whatnot that are using this to try to get ahead, right? They're creating businesses, virtual private servers where you can set this stuff up. Businesses are popping up immediately. But I want to be able to think about where this is going for the small business owner. So if you have comments, if you're digging the conversation, or if you want me to move on, you just let me know. But I'm just going to check in, say hi to a couple more people that are here. And of course, Nikki Lister's joining. Hey, Nikki, it's going to be a week. I'm going to see you in about a week. I can't wait to see you in Vegas. Thank you so much, Privilege, for the compliments on the audio. I'm trying. It's a Shure MX7 mic. If you want to see it, that's the Shure MX7X. MV7X, sorry, Shure. It's the MV7X because it only plugs directly into my Rodecaster. That's the mic that I'm using. And then, hey, Paul, I haven't talked to you in a while, man. I'm glad you're here. I hope you're having a great week and that vacation week is winding down for you and that the kids are still all, where they're supposed to be and alive. So that's all good. All right. So thanks, Privilege. I appreciate that. Absolutely going to talk about this stuff. So, all right. So where this goes for photography business and creative businesses, small businesses, as we see this roadmap develop, what you're going to have happen is a lot of and I'm just going to call them nerds, and it's an affectionate term. Nerds are going to work out the bugs, right? They worked out a lot of the security holes because there were things that were happening, like they would install this on their machine and give it full access to their entire data set. And then things were happening where the agent was sending thousands of texts, or it was writing so much code that it was giving you a $3,000-$4,000 bill for token access to some of these models. So people slammed the brakes on and said, what are we doing? How are we going to get around this? So the Hive nerd mind started formulating plans, and in a very short period of time, they fixed a ton of the security holes. Now, it's very insecure still to run as a person that has no idea what they're doing. Just don't get into it. Just wait another 2 months and it'll be fine. But it really got me thinking about the small business angle, about how many of us are soon, because we're used to this conversational type of interface with a large language model, we're soon going to be able to ask it to do things beyond just writing social media captions. We can have it build out plans and then execute those plans and then come back to us with the results. Now, all of this comes down to how you prep it. How do you teach it about yourself and how you want it to do business and the things that it can and cannot do, the guardrails, your voice, your tone, your style. All of that is generally developed right now in the large language models. But as you start to develop agentic AI and you're thinking about the different parts of your business, it's not just asking your robotic best friend, where is the closest Mexican restaurant? Now, your robotic best friend is going to say, well, you've got 4 different Mexican restaurants. Would you like me to call around and see if they have gluten-free options for you? And should I schedule a table for you and how many guests to go at what time? And then it's all taken care of for you, right? This is kind of the AI that we've all expected to happen. It's Rosie from the Jetsons, right? What can AI do in a real sense, rather than just being a roadblock to productivity, where now we're fighting with it, trying to drag things out of it and, have it work for us. And it's still kind of clunky because we loved it. It was new and inventive. And now it's just kind of old and repetitive. Agentic AI, if you start thinking about it as a small business, now you're developing departments. Now you've got your marketing department, you get your software development department, you get your finance department, and you can communicate with OpenClaw through a phone interface, Telegram, WhatsApp, iMessage, and just send it information. Talk to it like you would. You can literally talk to it and tell it what to do. You don't even have to type anything. You just talk to it, and it will run 24/7. So as I start thinking about what is it that I can do in the photography business, and then as well in this area, live streaming, right? So there's only so many hours in the week. I need to come up with things like a run of show. What are the topics I'm going to be talking about? What are the things that I've talked about? What are the trends that I've been discussing over the past month? What are my guests discussing? What are people seeing in threads, in videos, or in social platforms? Aggregate all of that and develop the show for me so that I can walk in, grab the run of show, scan it. This is all my information, but it's just organized and put together very quickly. So it's things like that. If I can minimize the amount of time that I have to do things, or minimize the time that I have to tell AI to put some of this stuff together for me, great. But this is the thing that you need to start thinking about, at least, because it's coming. And if you're like me and you like to stay kind of on the cutting edge of things, or you just want to stay one step ahead of what's happening so that, one, you know how to pivot, and two, you know how to apply it or avoid it. That's the way that I look at this. I don't like finding out about things 6-8 months later, because I feel like I'm so far behind the curve, I don't even bother anymore. I just try to stay up to date with everything that's happening. So use me as your resource. I'll explain things like I'm talking to a 3-year-old, because that's basically how I understand everything. So I'll explain it to you the same way. I was super excited about this, and then I realized it's way too early in the process. There's too much that needs to be thought out, but it's coming, and I'm going to be all over it when it does. But then that got me thinking about something else, and we're going to try this. And that got me thinking about something else. So I was on a webinar with Liz Wilcox earlier this week, and Mike Morrison, who's a marketer, was on there, and we were talking about communities and building communities, and we were talking about memberships and when's the right time to have a membership, and a lot of things that went into how do you retain the community, how do you retain the memberships, how do you grow your audience in an authentic, real way that is community driven and output focused, rather than pay attention to me, pay attention to me, pay attention to me. Which is ironic to say, because I'm asking you all to watch me on the internet. But it really isn't about me. This is about trying to have a public platform where we can talk about some of these issues. I can bring them to light, and maybe we can have a discussion about them. This is really why I'm kind of doing what I'm doing. And if just, I got a different message, but if things are choppy here, it's because I'm streaming to 3 locations at once, and I'm stress testing not only my computer, but I'm stress testing Ecamm, and I'm stress testing, my bandwidth here. So if it's a little bit choppy, that's why we have a casual conversation, because this isn't a TV show, right? This is just me talking to you. So if it's a little bit choppy, just bear with it. So the point that I was getting at is Mike Morrison was talking about community and memberships and all that. And he mentioned something about marketing like a farmer. And this concept really stuck with me. So as I was thinking about my website, that led me into thinking about OpenClaw. OpenClaw led me into thinking about how can I have that help me with my community and my audience. And when I saw this webinar with Mike Morrison talking about marketing like a farmer, the concept behind it really is you're planting now to harvest further down the line, right? It's not a hard concept to think about, but we don't market like that often. We tend to almost want to have instant results, especially with an audience. And our thinking is such that we believe that when we put something out, not only is everybody going to see it, but everybody's going to interact with it, because their feed looks exactly like your feed. This is the narrative that we make up in our mind. So we market with those preconceived notions. We market thinking that, all right, if I just put it out there, everybody's going to see it, and all I have to say is, please join me. And then everybody will see it, and everybody will join you, and everybody will be happy. That's not how it works. You know this, right? I'm talking to you. You're all creatives. And we go through the same thing all the time. We market, and it feels like we're shouting into a dark closet and nothing ever happens. So when I hear stories like that, or I hear people complain about things like that, and I've done plenty of that complaining myself, I realize that I'm not marketing like a farmer. I'm not planting seeds and then tending to those seeds and then growing those seeds so that there's a harvest down the line. The audience, the community, you're my seeds, you're my crops, right? I need to tend to you if I want to have a successful harvest 5, 6, 7, 8 months down the road. So the reason that I'm going live so often, the reason that I'm being a bit repetitive here in the early stages, I do a Wednesday night show, and then we break down some of the concepts and do a couple of things here on the Friday morning show. I like being able to sit here and think through things live with you. And, this is the tending of the seeds. This is sowing the rows with thoughts and how do we develop as a community? What are the topics that we really want to cover? I could talk about photography all day. I could talk about nerd stuff all day long. I can talk about just opinions that I have. Lord knows I got a lot of opinions. But I really do want to start thinking about all of us as this community that can drive things forward. I don't want to just niche to photography or to videography or to live streaming. I want us to expand a bit wider than that. Start thinking about the humanity involved, the empathy involved, what we need to do with each other as a collective of business owners, a collective of creatives. What are the issues that we're facing that we really need to be talking about? So I bring up OpenClaw as an example to say, how is agentic AI going to help or hurt creatives? What are your thoughts? Drop them in the chat if you have any. Like, it's going to kill us all. It's going to be the best thing ever. I just love to know some of the preliminary thoughts about, and I'm not talking AI in terms of art creation. That's been beaten to death. We know how most people feel about AI and art generation, generative AI, generative fill, just all of these photo templates that people are using, develop your headshot with AI. It's not what I'm talking about. Those are applications of artificial intelligence to the art that we try to create, right? It's doing that job. But our jobs as business owners and creative business owners are larger than that. So we have to, in fact, be smarter than AI. We can't dumb ourselves down and rely on AI, because now we're allowing robots to tell us what the truth is. We're allowing machines to tell us what we're supposed to believe. So unless we get ahead of that a little bit and we start understanding how we can be smarter, how we can keep that human element and infuse that in our businesses and talk about it as a community and come up with creative solutions to either utilize this technology or eschew it, just get rid of it. I think there's a lot of implications at a grand level that we're not thinking about, right? Data centers, water usage, environmental impact, all of these things. We're dependent on other people to think about it because we're scared to think about them ourselves. Let other smart people think about that stuff, right? And then we're behind the 8 ball when decisions get made. We didn't make our voice heard. And then we either have to put up or shut up, right? So I'm just trying to talk about this more, not because I am super pro AI or super anti AI. I look at it and I say, it's here. I'm going to use it in the ways that I think are morally acceptable and ethically acceptable. And that's it. So It's the same way that I like to use a skill saw, power saw instead of a hand saw, a Milwaukee drill instead of a screwdriver, right? That's how I look at this. It's a tool for a job, and if it can get my job done faster and with more ease, awesome. But I'm still in control of what I'm building. So I want to put up a comment that I just saw from Privilege. Thank you for dropping this in the chat, by the way. It's going to kill us all and impact the planet in scary ways until we figure out how to cool the systems that give it power. I agree with you. It's really weird having been in large data centers. I got to visit, this is probably 2010-ish, thereabouts, 11, 12, somewhere therein. I was doing consulting for an information security company, network security company called the Red Sky Alliance. And they're based out of New Hampshire. A buddy of mine, former NSA guy named Jeff Stutzman, he runs it. And we were doing, the company was doing, I don't want to say I was, because that would be a misrepresentation. What they were doing was setting up a lot of honeypots for bad actors, state-sanctioned hackers, that sort of thing, real high-level government stuff, hackers that were getting into large data centers like AT&T, like the infrastructure, the cell providers, the data providers. So I got a chance to visit the AT&T data center down in New Jersey. This thing looks like NORAD, right? If you ever saw war games or you see, anything with the government or the military, and you got this room of screens. Well, we were in a meeting room at this data center, this headquarters, and we're sitting there in a typical corporate meeting room, and they're telling us about what's going to happen and where we can go and where we can't go and who's going to be with us, and just giving us the briefing before we saw the place. And then they said, turn around, and the wall slid open, and there was this just 30, 40-foot wall of TV screens, and it looked like Kennedy Space Center. And you had all the people monitoring and all their monitors and looking up at live traffic of what was going across the internet. Those data centers are massive, and we don't know how to power them. That's for just a small fraction of monitoring the internet. There's talk right now about a facility that might open up down in southern Maine in the Sanford, Waterboro area. About north of that. And there's a proposal for a piece of land out there where they're building a 300 megawatt facility to produce electricity. Now, there's no information about any of this. It's very secretive. One of the state senators made mention, and then the news started to run with it. So I'm following this pretty closely. I don't know if there's going to be a data center here in Maine. I know they're building a huge one up at Loring Air Force Base, where I saw fish about 20 years ago when they did the Great Went and the Clifford Ball and whatnot. But Loring Air Force Base is up in northern Maine. It's an old abandoned Air Force base. It's beautiful up there, but I understand that they're building some level of 50 megawatt power plant up there, or data center up there. I don't know all the details of it, but that's being built. That's only 50 megawatts. Now, 50 megawatts, I believe, can power like 200,000 homes. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm not an electrical engineer, but 300 megawatts, what's that supposed to power? Data center, AI hungry data centers? Where's all that resource going to come from? What's going to happen to the environmental impact here in Maine? So it'll be really interesting to see as this grows, the not in my backyard crowd coming out. And I really want to see what happens. I'm very interested in it. So as all this stuff gets built, and as we think about these issues, as we think about the environmental stuff, how we give it power, where's your own moral and ethical boundary in using AI like this to power your business, to help do the things that you want to do? It's not slowing down, so where do you land? And I'm not saying pick a side. I'm not trying to cause any more division. God knows we've got enough of that right now. I'm not trying to divide anybody on this. What I'm trying to do is just have the conversation. How do I feel about it? I don't know 100%. I've explained how I like to use it, but I don't use it for generative work. I use it for marketing work. I say, here's all my ADHD thoughts, organize these, summarize these for me. Okay, I have no problem with that. Because quite frankly, the things that I'm asking AI to do can be run on my machine locally once I have access to a large language model that I can run reliably on a hard drive here. Because then now my power consumption is limited to my household. I just don't have the nerdosity or the hard drives or the memory, because it's ridiculously expensive now, to do that stuff on my own right now. So I use the cloud-based services. I think we all do. But there will come a time very soon this year at some point where we're all able to run our own private large language model at home with no guardrails, no restrictions. And we either need to be ready for it or not. So what I'm doing in preparation for all of that is saying, if I were to draw out my business again, and I were to portion out all the things that I do on a daily basis, how would I construct my company? Because by constructing the company that way, thinking through what it looks like, I'll be ready for agents when I feel like we're at a place where I can introduce them. I think there'll be an arms race for this where a lot of people, especially in the creative world, will implement this stuff and then we'll hit the same wall that we hit before. Everything will sound homogenized and generic and everybody will be on a journey and everybody will, it's not this, it's that. You know, it'll be the same thing. But we have to work through this period of time, this period of industrial revolution, and figure out what works and what doesn't as a society. The problem is the technology is outpacing our ability to have that conversation. So it's important that as creatives who are affected by this day in and day out, that we need to be able to come together and say, all right, our number one issue isn't generative AI. It's the fact that people now accept this as art. I don't know. It may or may not be the issue, but maybe it's the environmental impact. Maybe it's the fact that nothing is trustable anymore, right? The trust angle is huge. So how do we get over that? That's where I've been thinking. I know we started with market like a farmer, but the concept there really is we've got to be more forward thinking than we are right now. We're very reactive and we need to be a little bit more proactive about what the technologies are doing, right? We saw this a little bit with Evotogate, where we trusted AI enough to have it remove zits and flyaways in photos. But the second that they started doing something we didn't like, it blew up. It's not the fault of the software company. That was us giving them a certain level of trust in putting our ability to serve our clients in someone else's hands. We trusted them. That trust was broken, not because of anything that they did maliciously. It was the perception of betrayal. So that's really hard to come back from. It's going to be interesting next week. I want to be out at WPPI and I want to hear a little bit more about what's going on with Evoto and what other AI companies are popping up and what they're doing. Because believe me, there's going to be a lot of people asking that. So before I move on too far, thank you. Privilege, I appreciate you coming by. I really, really do. Happy Friday to you. Carolyn is saying that my community is battling against 2 data centers as we speak. Ooh, I'd love to know more about that. So as I start to think about what's happening here in Maine, I would love to maybe chat with you a little bit about that, just so that I can know, what's your community talking about? What are some of the issues that are coming up? We all know that there's a certain level of corruption and political machinery that we will not be able to crack. But I'd still like to know what the community is thinking about beyond, I don't want that here, environmental impact, we're losing jobs. Sure. What else? What else is there? What else are people thinking about? Is it tax revenue? Is it, they're displacing the homeless? What are the things that are happening where these data centers are being built? Are they being built in secret, or are they out in public? Do I sound a little tinfoil hatty? I don't know. I might sound a little bit tinfoil hatty. So that was all of that. The last thing that I'll say about AI is the project that I was working on earlier this week. Oh, property values. Carolyn just put in the chat, property values. Property values is a huge thing, especially here in Maine. So one of the last things that I was doing this week was, I talked about this on Wednesday night. Earlier on Wednesday, I recorded a video, came up with this thing about using AI to do video editing, because I subscribe to Opus and I send clips there predominantly to put captions on it, but I'll try to take a long piece of content like this, send it to Opus, and then have it break it down into smaller viral segments. Nothing's ever gone viral, but viral segments. And I didn't like having yet another subscription. So I came up with this AI workflow where I take my content and then I transcribe it. I take that transcription, I put that into AI. AI gives me the timestamps on the video where I need to make the cuts, and then I go back in and I make the cuts, and I have control over what the video edit looks like. I have the best narrative and the storytelling arc that Opus can't really do. I've been able to do that, and it worked great. So I made a whole video about it, and then immediately thought, how can I improve that? How can I build on top of it? And it got me thinking. I'm like, all right, well, what is it that I like in Ecamm? Oh, I like the fact that in Ecamm, if I do my recordings and I do something like I press M at any point, right? We're recording and streaming here right now. So if I press M, what that's going to do is put a marker right here on the recording, so that when I bring it in and, export it, I know exactly where those marking moments are. So it got me thinking about, how can I use Final Cut Pro. If I use Final Cut, how can I not have to go between a document and the video and cut at all these points? And that's an XML file. So now I'm having AI, right? Claude will do this analysis and find those parts. And all I have to do is say, hey, this is shot in 23.98, 24 frames a second, 30 frames a second, 60 frames a second, whatever it is. I give it the frame rate, and it's going to spit out an XML file that I can then just drop into Final Cut. And now those edit cuts are already there, and it's already arranged. That's going to be amazing. So I'm testing that today. It's already written. I just want to see if it's going to work in the way that I hope it does. If it does, this is all free. So in the process, in the workflow that I put out there, there's a subscription that I use called Mac Whisper, and it's a locally sourced, so it's not going out to the cloud, transcription program. That costs about $70. You don't need it. I like it because I like to keep my data private. I don't know what I want to send to the cloud, so I'd rather have everything done on my machine, so I can keep the conversations that I have and the data that I have as private as possible. It's not impossible for me to lose stuff, but I want to try to control as much of my data as possible, or at least have the illusion that I'm controlling my data. So if I can get this all to work today, then either today, tomorrow, by Monday, I'll have a new video out with that addendum already built into it. So I haven't even released the video yet. It's all edited, ready to go. And I think I even have a picture of it somewhere. I don't know, here. Yeah. So picture of me with the whisper flow on screen and whatnot. And I go through everything that I do in this workflow. So hopefully that'll go out. Hopefully it'll save you some money. Hopefully it'll spur some sort of creativity in you. I'm not a software developer, but I'm really interested in efficiency. So I'm doing these things to try to make this whole process easier. And whatever I learn, I'm giving back to you. So if you can use it, great. The process should work with the exception of the XML, because I don't write for Premiere or DaVinci or CapCut or iMovie. I do things in Final Cut. So if I can make that work in Final Cut, great. Here's the kicker. So I love this. So I come up with this whole AI workflow, right, to edit my videos for me or help me cut down the time in editing. And I think I'm a genius. I'm like, oh my God, this whole AI development thing it's a no-brainer. I'm a nerd. I'm great. I can do this. Well, put this video together, feeling really proud about everything. Now, end of the night, feeling really good. Start scrolling my phone. What do I get served but an ad for a company? And I screenshotted it somewhere so I wouldn't forget it, but I forgot already where it is. A company, I want to say it's like Polarity or something to that effect. What they did was productize the exact same thing that I created. So this is not me saying they stole anything or that I saw their stuff and stole their stuff. That's not it at all. I think this is one of those cases where everybody just sees the same thing at the same time and it's a race to the front. What they did was they productized all of this. So now it's a subscription service. You can sign up and just upload your video and it's going to find all those cuts. And then at the end, do the same thing that I did. It'll transcribe it. It'll mark the most viral moments. It will spit out an XML file for you to bring into your editor of choice, and it will cut things for you. So the funny thing about all that is I created this whole workflow thinking I was being this wonderful altruistic nerd and putting out something everybody can use. And I'm still doing it, right? The prompt is going to be free. But I saw that there was another company marketing this, and they're going to make a ton of money doing this, a ton of money doing it. But if I can avoid another subscription and do it myself and teach my friends how to do it, I think that's kind of cool too. So it just made me laugh that here I am thinking I have this wonderfully new, brilliant idea. And I just kind of got smacked down a little bit because there's somebody out there already doing it. And not only are they out there doing it, they've already built the ads and their sponsored ads out there now. I just found it funny that I was talking about this with nobody but me and my brain. And as I was recording the video and going through and scripting everything out and putting it on the teleprompter and recording the video, my phone's sitting here listening to me. And then the algorithmic gods start spitting out companies that are doing exactly what I just tried to do myself. So it just made me laugh. The good thing is that it validated the way that I was thinking. It validated the product. It validated the need. So that made me feel pretty good. But am I going to get rich off this stuff? No, but some guy named Jurgen probably will. It is what it is. You know, this is kind of what we get into as creatives is we're going to come up with something the same time somebody else is going to come up with it. No one's stealing ideas. I mean, I try not to steal ideas, but things are going to happen at the same time just because people see things the same way. And that got me thinking, right? Just that little situation got me thinking about what it is that we do in the creative pursuits. And where do we draw the line between influence and inspiration and then theft? There's a friend of mine who does commercial work for a bourbon brand, I believe, an alcohol brand. And they're down in Portland, Maine. He does beautiful work. Zach Bowen does beautiful work. And he came up with, you know, a commercial ad for this bourbon or this alcohol. Beautiful lighting setup, golden lighting setup. Gorgeous, great commercial work. And there's another photographer down there who I don't know the name, literally copied light for light, placement, angle, colors, everything for a brand that they're doing, and then pitched the brand saying that they could do it cheaper. That to me is just kind of gross. That's just kind of disgusting. So where do we draw the line between inspiration and influence and theft? Because we're all coming up with similar ideas, and there are plenty of ways that we can all create. And it's fine to have inspiration and influence from others. Believe me, there's not a blues player out there that hasn't heard of B.B. King, right? Robert Johnson, right? Led Zeppelin copied all their stuff. Influence is there. But what do we do in reacting to when we see this influence out there, right? So I see this company that's doing the same thing as me. Great. We're all thinking along the same lines of how do we use some of this technology to make our jobs easier? And this is just the iteration that we're in right now. There's going to be a much better process for this once agentic workflows come out, because now we can just say, we want this output. I don't care how you do it. Figure it out on your own and get it done. So we're not going to have a lot of these subscriptions anymore, because we'll be able to build the tools ourselves. So think about the parts of your business or the parts of whatever it is that you create, and start thinking about, all right, if I could have in a perfect world, these three things happen, what would those three things be? I know for me, they're probably going to be focused in the marketing network outreach area, because I get so consumed with the actual creation and the planning and the distribution and the nerdery and the lighting and the creative aspects of this that I forget about the networking, the interpersonal, the one-on-one, all the marketing things that we need to do. I just forget about it. I just don't do it. And then I wonder why nothing's growing and I'm not getting anywhere. It's because I haven't put in the time and effort, and I haven't hired somebody to put in the time and effort for me. So I think, as I look another 12, 24 months down the road, everything that I'm talking about right now isn't going to mean anything, because it will all be solved. I'll either be out of business or I'll be flourishing, because I'm marketing like a farmer. I'm thinking like a farmer. I'm building all of this stuff now so that there'll be payoff 12 months, 24 months down the road. And I can't wait to come back to this and bring this little clip up in a year, because I want to see if, one, I stayed in place and I just got stuck and I didn't do anything, or two, it actually came to fruition. But I think we're getting to this point where we can't be thinking about what does next quarter look like. Things are moving far too fast. We have to be able to run two simultaneous races. One, staying on top of the technology, running as fast as you can, learning as much as you can, so that you can take that back to the farm and start thinking about, what crops do you need to sow? How long do you need to think about this? Where do you want the fruits to bear, and when? Right? What is it that you want 6, 10, 12 months from now? Many of us think more money, more time with the people that we love, more relaxation, less stress, right? It's fine. But it doesn't mean that we can stop doing what we're doing. We have to think about the outcome, the output. I think about you as the audience, as my product. How do I best craft the best audience and the best community that I can? What are the things that we can do together to foster this environment? What are the things that I can do? Do I build a platform for us? Do I just keep us on a group chat? What are the things that work for you? So these are the ways that I'm thinking about Stone Tree, the photography business, about Generator, the podcast, about any of the live streaming work that I do, the education that I do. How do I want to be teaching people? What's the true philosophy about what I want to be teaching? What is the output that I want people to have? How do I build the community the way that I believe an idealistic community should be built? How do I think about bringing together like-minded voices, not necessarily voices that all agree with each other, but like-minded in our approach to delivering content? How do I bring those together into a creative network? I designed an entire podcast network that I'm rethinking yet again because I see ways that it can be done better. So I'd love to know what projects you're working on as I kind of start landing this plane a little bit here. I'd love to know what projects you're working on, how they're being influenced by this type of thinking. How far out do you plan? Do you plan at all? Sometimes I get into modes where I'm not planning and I'm just reacting. And it feels like I'm falling through the ice on a frozen lake every 10 minutes because I think I'm making a step forward and then I straight through the ice. How is it that you're planning now? We always get wrapped up in how we're planning at the beginning of the year, but here we are entering essentially March, the end of the first quarter. How are things shaping up? Have you even had a chance to think or plan or strategize? Me, this is an ongoing process. This isn't once a year. I mean, once a year, I kind of take stock of everything, but I don't often say, all right, I'm one and done in January. I've finished all the strategery that I can do. It's not like that. I'm constantly planning, constantly improving. Love to know what you guys are planning and improving now. All right, guys, I'm rolling up on an hour here. I appreciate it. I've been rambling a little bit, but I want to cover off on a couple of things that are coming up so that you know what the next couple of weeks are going to look like. So be on the lookout next week for this video that I'll be releasing. I'll publicize it about doing video editing faster. Doesn't solve all your problems, but faster. So that you can change your long form content, and by long form, I mean anything over 5 minutes, into shorts that have actual story and actual narrative to them. So maybe what I'll do is I'll test my own little program on this episode. Why not? So that video is coming out next Wednesday night, the 18th. Is that right? No, the 18th. That was this Wednesday. The 25th. Renee Robin from Boris Effects and of digital art fame is going to be joining me here on Generator Live on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern. We're going to be talking Boris Effects. There's a cool project that I just did with an Abraham Lincoln reenactor, and we'll go through some of those photos, and we'll talk about some of that stuff, and we'll talk about WPPI. And then next Friday is basically going to be my last show before I start heading west. So we'll wrap up. I'll tell you exactly where I am in my planning process. I'll probably be nervous and on the verge of vomiting, but it's going to be a fun time. I just know that this next week is going to fly by, and then all of a sudden I'm going to be on a plane. So I have to get my hair did. I have to get my nails done. I have to do all the things so that I'm prepped, so that I'm all gussied up to go to Vegas. Guys, thank you for joining me here. I hope you've been able to finish your coffee. I haven't even had a sip of my tea. So here's a sip of the tea. I'm going to jump into the comments and see what people have here. All right. So Carolyn was saying, back to the AI conversation, property values, as they're building data centers, that property values is going to be affected. That's a huge thing. And then water. In Michigan, we kind of love our Great Lakes. Yeah, you know, they're those little ponds you got over there. They're great. But yes, I've heard quite a bit about the stuff in Michigan that's going on. And I have a feeling that they're going to start to gobble up the states like Michigan and Maine and South Dakota and all of these places that are less densely populated. And they're going to start looking for the resources there and put those data centers in. Good thing is it might create some jobs. Bad part is, you know, it kills everything in a 100-mile radius. Trade-offs for technology, right? All right, kids. Thank you for joining me here. Please get in the chat if you want to contribute to the conversation. Just drop comments in the thread below. Send me DMs, matt@stonetreecreative.com. Hit me up on the websites. Check out the website, right? stonetreecreative.com, generatorpodcast.com. Let me know if you find any bugs. I've been building these sites, but I'm no developer. So check them out. I'd appreciate that. And if you have ideas or things that you want to talk about, let me know. And I'll bring those on, or I'll find a guest to bring on, or I'll bring you on, and we'll have that discussion, because these are the types of things that I think we need to be thinking about a little bit more. It's not just about reacting to technology. It's about driving the future development of it. And I think we're in a wonderful position to be able to do that for the creative world. So if that's what you dig and that's what you're into, then stick around. But I'll be sending out a newsletter Monday morning. So if you are not subscribed, get on the email list. Just go to generatorpodcast.com, and there's downloads and freebies or whatnot, and just get on the list, and you'll stay up to date with everything that I'm doing here. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. One more time, I'm just sending this because I like doing this. I appreciate you all. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Wednesday night. Bye now.